Can two now moments exist at the same time? I think, based on the experience many humans are going through at this point of time, they could coexist. Absolutely. Two different realities, or so to say, two different now moments can exist at the same time. Question is, how long can this continue for? Has this experiment has ever been done before? Maybe in a different universe. I'm not sure any human would remember going through this experience, but it could be possible in some distant universe, distant time frame. We've gone through it. How are we? How are we doing this though? Many of us, including myself, I've been struggling with this now point where all of the past, all of the emotions, all of the experiences, all of the thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, they've accumulated to a point where they're just what they are. It's like in this dimensional reality, well, let's call it for a point of reference, third dimensional reality. This is where we've been up until now. And we've been part of this system. No matter what whoever says, this system was created for us, but we've been part of it. We can't just discard everything which we've gone through in the past who knows how many years being in that system. But then we sense the existing of something different, something new, which is right here. Or it's almost like we can smell it, and we can go into it through our imagination and different thoughts and different emotions, even different behaviors. We participate in the new as well, but we still live in the old. And in many instances, those two, they clash. The way they clash is through our own system. Our body goes through a process of rejecting, frustration, not knowing how to deal with those so contradictive, so to say, existences. And not only that, but we're still in this 3D material system, which it doesn't seem like it's going to go away anytime soon. And we would still have to participate to some extent, just to be able to support our physical structure, our material needs. And then, but we feel the existence of the new. We know it's here, we know it's there, and it's like it creates this enormous amount of frustration of not being able to get there through the means and the methods we know of how to do so, of what we've learned up until now. And myself, I've been in this process for the last since 2012, so quite a long time. And the frustration had grown to almost unbearable point when the pandemic hit. And also anger, which surfaces, of also the misunderstanding and not acceptance of people who are close to us, the difficulty of communicating, expressing, all of this. But, today all of a sudden I woke up and I was thinking of, the planet Earth has always been an experiment. We are like a lab or a laboratory or a library where things had been collected, things had been experimented with, and we humans have been left here in our conscious evolution to grow within this natural process of evoluting. And it's almost to a point where we have to make the jump. We got to move forward. But we're so programmed, we're so deeply stuck with what we've known and learned with our past history. We don't even know what to do. So the only thing which we know is this state of frustration and anger, because there is no manual. There is nothing out there which tells you step by step, this is how you're going to behave to get from this third dimension to the next level of evolution. This is not what it is. And we're in this state of chaos, which is global chaos. It's not like on an individual basis. It's the whole planet is in a complete chaos. Given my mathematical background, I was thinking about chaos, and sure enough, chaos, I mean, in many instances, if you listen to religious people, they tell you the devil creates the chaos, which very much may be true. But also there are mathematical principles, and Lorenzo was the first one who defined chaos as a system which determines the future. But in this approximate now moment, it doesn't determine the approximate next future. So it's almost like it's a boiling point, chaotic boiling point, which would eventually create a future system, but it's not going to happen in the next now moment. It's like the system has to go through its own chaotic process. And he's done a lot of, actually he's experimented with this in his electromagnetic studies and all of that. But when you and what he came to conclude is chaotic systems, actually, they go through their own learning process, which is repetition of patterns. Imagine that. Repetition of patterns inside the chaotic system, as well as feedback loops. So there is the repetition of patterns, there is a feedback loop, there are also fractal momentum, how things work in this particular fractal, and many additional patterns which have been observed in a chaotic system during a specific time frame or duration until it determines its own future. So I was trying to think of a more practical way to explain this to myself, and what came to mind was snowflakes. So when it snows, we look at it. It's snow, right? It's like snow is falling down. When you look at the many different particles consisting within the snow, there's snowflakes. And there are no two snowflakes alike. They come out of a chaotic system which determines itself into one beautiful fractal particle called snowflake, which has the most proportional, beautiful, and unique structure one could think of. You look at different snowflakes, they're all beautiful. You can't even pick the one you like most. They're so sophisticated and complete. They came out of a chaotic system. So this reminds me very much of the situation we're in now. Us as individuals, as humans, as we know, there are no two fingerprints alike on the planet. And I believe there are no two frequencies we carry within us alike on the planet. And we're in this chaotic system now where we are like the human collective, but also as individuals, we've been shaped up in this beautiful snowflake structure. It's just a matter of recognizing this is what it is, and also recognizing each one of them is perfectly beautiful, although it came out of chaos. So the way I cannot pick the most beautiful snowflake, the same way one cannot pick the most beautiful human. We're all part of the same system. It's just we're going through this evolutionary learning process, and we are part of it. In addition to our bodies, for those of us who can sense it, they're going through this energetic clash of the different dimensions. So one dimension, and I was thinking about this from my own perspective, given I've been in this boiling soup or microwave popcorn process where the kernel gets so hot, but and it turns out in a fluffy, soft white popcorn, but not all kernels do. Some are overdone and some are never done. So this is like that whole process. But I was thinking myself, those two realities, they coexist. We have two now moments, any way you look at it, and our physicality feels it, our emotions feel it, our mental state, thoughts, they're also going through it, our behaviors, our beliefs, everything goes through this mix of or clash of the two realities. So why would that have to be so? I was thinking, and then I was thinking, let me think, what brings me up to the next dimension? What state of mind, thoughts, emotions, behaviors, beliefs bring me to that state? So I wrote some of them down. So what brings me to the fifth dimension is I feel connected to a higher intelligence, and I feel calm. I feel like everything is okay. I get downloads of information, which is unbelievable. And sometimes it's could be just an imagery or a little story or words, depending on what it is. And recognizing this connection with the higher intelligence is like the first step, knowing you're there, you are connected, and you're guided through the process. So this is one. In many instances, there is excitement. It's like, it's so exciting to go through this process and see how it's going to work and what's going to come out at the other end. Also, the feeling of adventure. This is so adventurous, and you feel good about going into the jungle or into the forest and fighting and looking through things and finding out what's going on, because it's unknown, and it's an exploration, and it's a learning, and it's a change, it's a challenge. So all these things are like maybe in the transitionary state more than just connecting with the higher intelligence, where things are like more stabilized, so to say, on the emotional level. But this is how I feel when I'm in this heightened state. What brings me to my beloved third dimensional world? So everything is known. Not everything is negative in either, or positive in both. So in the third dimension, it's known, it's secure, it's safe, it was already created. It doesn't matter who created it. Maybe somebody else created those systems, but we're fine in those systems. But then it comes the doubt, really? And then comes the anger, comes the frustration, comes the inability to communicate with close friends, relatives, coworkers, the inability to go to places, to resist. And then it comes the thought of, why is this so difficult to achieve? All kinds of trauma which comes to the surface. Who did what to you? Grouches, you name it. And then it becomes unmanageable ball of emotions, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, which you just, at some point, you just want to put aside. So how do we deal with this? I think many people are in the same situation as I am, and I have been in a very long time. But what I've, this morning when I was thinking along those lines, I think I've actually got connected to my higher intelligence, which in many instances stabilizes and equalizes the thought processes. And it was like, at some point, those two realities, they have to merge. They cannot be like this through like forever. That's not gonna work. How are they going? So the old pretty much will be gone, and the new will be built. How long is this gonna take? I don't know. And I think this transitionary state, which are in now, we're mixing the realities and we're going from the old to the new. But what's the good about it? I think the good about it is our learning process. And this came to me, I was watching, somebody was talking about how people are destroying the statues all over the country and US. And immediately this brought to mind, I came from Eastern Europe in the 90s. This is exactly what happened in Eastern Europe in the 90s. So the socialists, the Berlin Wall went down, the socialist cause was like one morning we woke up, wasn't there anymore. What was the first thing people did? Out of anger, frustration, and hatred, they went and they destroyed everything, which was the statues, the museums, buildings, whatever. They didn't want to see them. They didn't want to have anything to do with them. Now, when I go back to my old country, I would like to show my daughter some of those examples and tell her, see, this is where this person was buried, and this is what he did to society. That's what his story is. But I can't, because those things, they don't exist. So is this the right way to be doing things? Or the right way is just extract the learning from the history. Don't forget it. You have to keep the lesson alive, so you don't repeat the mistakes of the lesson. Because the ones who come after you, they haven't lived your life. They don't know that lesson. They have to have some sort of an example which they refer to. And even if Columbus didn't discover America, so what? Keep the statue and put a huge sign in front of it which says Columbus didn't discover America, somebody else did, and this is what history says. It's a learning lesson. That doesn't mean you have to kill the statue because you hate it. How are the generations coming after gonna know who's Columbus and why the statue is not there anymore? In this regard, we're kind of deleting history for the future generations, and it's not wise. The wisest thing would be keep the history lessons alive, extract the wisdom out of history, and move forward. So the generations coming, they would know why things happened the way that they happened. So it's almost like do not discard the baby with the bathwater, right? So, and also we were all part of the old system. We can't just say this system never existed, it's all bad, and so on and so forth. We have to keep the lessons of the system alive. So, and again, so the same mistakes do not repeat. So now, speaking of all of this, the other thing I was thinking is, for me personally, I'm reliving my socialist experience, which came from a small Eastern European country. I'm reliving this experience on a different level here in America. And it's almost like that cycle has its own evolution. Any way you look at it, it's almost like socialism went through an evolutionary cycle, came here. This is the last point, and it's at the point of transformation of this evolutionary cycle. It has to go away, but it has to be done. So, and we don't have a lot of time to experience this. This is going like on a fast forward. I've lived in the socialist country for forever. I was born there and I left in my 20s. So this was my whole experience. Here, those 20 years which I've experienced have been experienced like maybe in a few months. It's absolutely crazy. So talk about speeding up time or having time holes or distractions in the time frames. This is absolutely crazy. And I think this contributes big deal to the chaos and confusion, especially people who do not have the experience which people coming from Eastern Europe or socialist worlds do have, because we can see it. It's so obvious. It's right here in front of our faces, but it's on a fast forward speed. It doesn't go slow, it goes fast. And again, this is almost like an ending of an evolutionary cycle which has its own pathway, but it just has to end, and it has to end quick. There is no time for this to develop through time and what have you. So, and this is why people are saying, "Oh, it's a roller coaster. Fasten your seatbelts." I mean, in Bulgaria, we didn't have food on the shelves. There is no milk for the babies. They were stopping electricity all the time, on and off. We were laughing like it was like a discotheque, because and we never knew when electricity would be on or off. Winter time. Many of us were placed in big cities to live in apartment buildings because this was the socialist idea of community. So we didn't have our independent land or whatever means our grandparents had to support themselves. So we went through this, and it was. And actually, I'm lucky that I think now it's much more painful because people are going through this from a system which was so much more developed, and they never had to go through this. Lucky for them, but eventually now they do, because it's almost like equalizing consciousness through the whole world. We cannot move forward without all of us knowing what the others had gone through. But here it's happening so fast, it's unbelievable. It is like, yeah, and one day when I was meditating, I was given this image of, and I don't like roller coasters, absolutely not. I get car sick. But I was given this image where I'm like riding a roller coaster every minute, like this and this, and sometimes it goes like pew, and then again, and then pew. So, and I never know when the pew is gonna happen. But so that's what it is. And it's from a higher perspective. As much as I don't like to admit this, because I'm not a wise person, not at all. But my wise connection this morning was trying to explain to me how we have to go through this process of understanding each other as the individual snowflakes, how beautiful they are. They're coming out of a chaotic system. There is no one more beautiful than the other. They're all perfect. We're the same way. We're unique frequencies. We are all perfect. We need to understand each other. We are part of this global human collective, and to move forward, we have to know our experiences and extract the lessons for the future generations. Don't just discard, destroy, ignore, hate, frustrate, and all of that. I mean, sometimes for a little while, go to a boxing ring or to the gym or a jump rope or whatever. That definitely helps to expel this energy, because it is energy. It's an energetic exchange. And even those two now moments between the higher and the lower dimensions, that is absolutely an energetic exchange. But I think the first step is recognizing it for what it is, to be able to accept it, forgive, extract wisdom, move forward. So the other thing which I wrote down here is evolution is a natural process. It's almost like when you're growing a tomato, if you modify it artificially, genetically, yeah, sure, maybe you get a tomato from a seed straight to a red tomato, but it's not going to taste the same. Evolution is a natural process, and we're going through an evolutionary development. We've been going through it for a long time. But one of the universal laws is evolution cannot be suppressed. There is no way, and nothing, and no one has the right to suppress evolution in consciousness, because we are consciousness. We're individualized consciousness and a global consciousness. And by the way, when I speak about connection with higher guidance, we're not alone. The thing is, I think most of us, we're the craziest ones, because we agreed, or maybe we're the bravest, who knows. We agreed to be the boots on the ground while this experiment is going on. This evolutionary change is happening, but we're not alone. Our guidance system agreed to help us, and our guidance system is protecting us. I wrote what I felt from the guidance system. I just have to find it here. So they're protecting us, they're guiding us, they're observing, they're documenting. uh, and they're helping, they're balancing, they're also sacrificing themselves the way, many of us think we do. But from a different angle perspective, we're having most of the fun. Especially if you like roller coasters. This is like fun. If you observe it from a higher intelligence point of view. So what I also wrote here was, instead of resisting the clash between the different realities, learn how to recognize when you are switching energetically between the two and accept it as normal. This is what, accept it as normal. Because this is the unique moment of this now. It's a mix of the two energetic levels. It's a trampoline for the future. It's collecting wisdom. And this is not easy, especially for humans, given their emotional connections, traumas. But can we accept, forgive, and move forward? Because by everything which we're seeing now, whoever thinks this old reality is coming back because it's safe, secure, and we know, and that no one wants to, that's not going to happen. It's not happening. And faster we move through this process, better off we will be. The other thing which I've recognized, all these people who are losing their jobs, me included, because they don't want to comply with certain lunacy which is going on around, we may have to do that. We may be the chosen ones. Because think of the industries where this is happening. The healthcare, the education, the police, the cleaning industries, many private businesses. But the main industries where this is happening, actually, they're in the most crisis. So maybe we're the chosen ones. Maybe we have to go first through this process. Because do you think the ones who are staying there, they're going to stay there for long? No. This is going to be no more than a couple of years. Those systems, they're going to be trashed to the ground. So we are better off just think of how we're going to rebuild, what we're going to do for the future. And this is not going to come from outside, somebody telling you this is how the future is going to be. And there are no steps and processes in some sort of a software builder which we go into and enter how we're going to do it. It has to come from each one of us individually, and it has to come to a point where, do you feel good about going back to your old job for the money you're making, or you feel better off, even in the uncertain moments, to be free and analyze yourself, what exactly gives you joy doing on a daily basis. And even go back to your childhood. What were you doing when you were a free child? What was giving you joy back then? Maybe it's the same thing which you want to go back to today. So nothing is coincidental, and when we talk about white hats, black hats, I think they're in the same situation. It's not just, the planet is so polarized, it has been, that we're used to the black and the white. But again, it's a mix of both, and it cycles, and one transitions into the other. So I think we're exactly in this evolutionary coiling cycle of going from the one to the other. So there is no right and wrong. And also, because we're so straightforward in those boxes, we're attached to political parties, and we think the politicians, political parties, they know best, they know better. No, look inside of yourself. What makes you feel good in your daily existence? forget about the financial situation at the moment, because there will be a point, the situation where we are in now, everybody will be in the same situation. So what are we going to do then? Recreate the same financial system? Recreate the same healthcare system? This is where it comes to a point where we have to learn the lessons from the past. And how do we move forward? With the perfection which comes from our own frequency and the reasoning of being here at this moment, to be able to think forward, to be able to contribute to building the future, to be able to be an example for our own children, and also being a reference point for what happened in the past, how we lived our lives for them, so they don't repeat the same mistakes moving forward. Let's see, what else? Well, I had a small note here that the chaotic systems, I was thinking more about chaotic systems. So they absolutely can be natural. Like, for example, the weather. Weather can be, and from our perspective, can be very chaotic. Although it can be also manipulated, as we well know. Heartbeat can be chaotic as well. But chaotic systems can also be artificial. For example, road traffic. When there is chaos on the road, that's just artificially created chaos. But they also can be mix of both. And what came to mind was the stock market. So stock market is a mix of natural and artificial, because our human emotions go into the artificial creation of this structure or system. So yeah, I guess chaos goes on all levels. Yeah, so as a final note, I just want to reiterate again that a lot depends on us as individuals and collective. And everybody has been put to this test. For some sooner than later. And if it's sooner, maybe we are going to be used as examples, what's going to be happening later. But it affects our beliefs, behaviors, thoughts, emotions. And lastly, cannot mandate evolution of consciousness. It's a natural process. Cheers.